Hello everyone, my name is Maya Chu from ZeldaSanctuary.com, and we are here with new world record holder Habble from
That's a good.
Twitch. Yeah, it's proven pretty good. We're doing this as a interview video for him, and just to kind of get like some insight of what was more or less going through your mind during that stream, as well as how you were able to do it. You know, all these other generalized questions. I wanted to know how long you've been playing Ocarina of Time. Was there any type of like inspiration that you picked up on like the categories, or what any other categories do you intend to improve on?
Yeah, well, I started speedrunning about 6 months ago now, so early July in 2018. I used to watch speedrunning a lot from just casually as a viewer, and always just thought in the back of my mind, it would be great if, you could do that. And one day I just happened to realize that I ended up with the equipment to do so after so long of planning my streaming setup, and it just went from there. I used to watch people like Joden Stone and Skater. A bunch of those guys were fantastic to just chill out to.
Okay. And like, were those people used like as a huge inspiration to continue with this path, or did you like take that for you took that as a way of pushing yourself forward with the idea of speedrunning?
Very much initial starting point. Those guys in particular aren't really running these days anymore.
Right,
But
right.
people like them and others as well have been huge inspirations on the path. And yeah, I've just been trying to take that initial feeling that I got of starting running and expand upon it
Okay.
the more I run.
So what brought Zelda Ocarina of Time to you personally? Like, was there an instinctive connection to you when you were a child, or did you play it a lot
Oh
as
yeah.
a... Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah, well, I like when I was maybe 4 to 6, I'd say. This was like my main jam, like a lot of
your
people others. I
your
just
main
I just
jam.
grew up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
it's always kind of had a special place in my heart because of that. Though obviously I'm a bit biased, but yeah,
a
as a
little...
kid, I
Right.
always remembered like the feeling of that epic adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, back then this was like the first 3D world, so it really felt gigantic.
Right.
But that feeling of wonder is never really left me, no matter how many times I watched the intro cutscene.
Right. Would there be any like sense or cosmetic that makes it different than any other Zelda games? Like, was it just it's always been Ocarina of Time regardless what other Zelda comes out, or have you ever felt,
Um,
you know, any other games reach out to you like OT does?
Majora's always had a really nice story. Like it was emotionally thrilling, but especially at the time, like the age I was, like 6 years old, I really enjoyed the concept of playing both a child and an adult. Because, like through the whole puberty state, like that's a coming of age story right there. It just felt right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard to compare such an inspirational kind of feeling as a child to any other games, since you never really get that exact same sense of wonder, but they're all very good in their own ways, I feel.
Right. And I recall like watching a couple of your streams, and you were practicing Majora's Mask, and I was wanting to know if you had the potential thought of running different Zelda games besides Ocarina of Time, such as Majora's Mask or maybe Twilight Princess, or maybe even 2D Zeldas. Has any of that crossed your mind?
Yeah, I've actually got a lot of interest in a bunch of different categories and titles. Like you said, there's Majora's Mask so far, and I've found that interesting, but also very challenging. Twilight Princess seems like it'll be a lot of fun despite the length of the runs. And I know the Zelda Game Boy games actually look kind of interesting as well. I've got a GameCube here in my setup, and it has the Game Boy interface, so maybe I'll take a shot at that at some point too. There's a lot of there's just so many titles that it's kind of hard to know where to begin. But no matter where I go, I always kind of come back to Ocarina one way or another. It will probably always be there in some form.
Right. So, you started off with Ocarina of Time any percent, Ocarina of Time, no N I am, wrong warp. And the question it came down to is, what made you go for Master Quest any percent? What made you switch over from Ocarina of Time any percent? And what were the major differences besides the dungeon changes in Master Quest?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that it was as much of a switch as an expansion, because, like you said, that there are some differences, but it's really only just in the dungeons. As far as the routing goes for this category, it's pretty much just 3 splits that are different from the regular any percent, but they're different enough with the route that I did, where it was both interesting and challenging to do them.
Okay.
And it's like this. I mean, do you want me to expand on that a little more?
Yeah, sure. Feel free.
So there's 2 particular splits with glitches we do in any percent called GEM, or like get on delay, and that's they need to clip off certain enemies in the dungeon, and those are only spawned at particular places, and they don't move. In Master Quest, those positions change; they're not even there, so we can't use those to perform the glitch. So we have to look for other avenues to perform the same glitch, and because of that, the routing changes a little and becomes slower than the regular any percent. But the changes different enough that it feels like an expansion of the title.
Okay. I know from like watching that the get item manipulation is drastically different from the normal Ocarina of Time any percent. You have to go, I believe, down to the scrubs section, and you do a couple of side hops. You open up your shield, and then you wait for.
There's actually 3 ways of doing it mainly, but the first was like an RNG only method from a crawl space up in Deku.
Oh, okay.
That was in regular any percent. They were doing that for the longest time.
I see.
Skater found most of that, and
Okay.
and for a while he was looking for a more consistent method. And the one in B2 Scrub Room was the one that he found before the one that was used in current any percent, which just ended up being faster.
Right.
It just so happens that the one in Scrub Room is the only one that works for Master Quest, and no one's really tried to do that in an optimized way before, mainly because of the difficulty of it, I feel.
Right. That would make sense. Now the thing is that during your stream you said that you weren't really exactly happy with your run, and I was wondering to know if there could be anything that you could improve. You mentioned something regarding Instaclip being possibly implemented into your run. Could you maybe give some insight on that?
Yeah, so the run I had, it was perfect for what I wanted, but I wouldn't call it an optimized time. It's a proof of concept for the GEM route being faster than the old Kakariko route, as far as just time for time goes. But it was only 2 seconds faster than that route. But the run itself lost a lot of time on different sections. I lost about 6 seconds on Ganon. I lost 15 seconds on Scrubs. I didn't do Instaclip, which is the more difficult and faster way of avoiding at collapse, to skip that whole section. with an unbuffered insta clip instead of the void warp, that would save about 30 more seconds.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of smaller time saves around, as well as the newer Waterfall West and Barber
Right.
Hess that can be added in with Game Route, and those two specifically you wouldn't even be able to do in CAC Route. It just doesn't work out with the way movement is.
Right. And there's always the reason to get marginally closer from, the humanistic to Taz level of
Yeah.
play. Recently Torge had the new world record for Ocarina of Time that had an interview from IGN, and now we have our Master Quest 10% world record holder. So it's really something you have to take in consideration on how crazy it can get from bringing this game that we all know and love that is hours and hours and hours down to barely 20 minutes of gameplay. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know, do you think or do you believe you could possibly bring Master Quest down closer to Ocarina of Time's current 80% world record?
The regular 80% time.
Is it possible to bring the 1943 closer to the 1704?
From the little science I've done and different math I've calculated, it seems like 1810 is probably possible for Master Quest, but because of the specific Master Quest changes, getting any less than that is going to be a huge, even with Barber Hess and Waterfall West, that would be really insane. You'd have to play so ridiculously close to your goals that it's sub 18 would be like a holy grail.
Right. And at that point,
once you get to
right. And at that point, if that would be the holy grail, someone would have to really, really study up onto figuring out what could be a potential glitch that would make the time shorter, and at that point, that's just learning how the game works and what we can, manipulate and utilize to shorten time. But
yeah, I mean that it's Ocarina, so
right. Anything can happen at this point. It went from hours to 17 minutes. If people are saying that sub 16 for Ocarina of Time is now possible, so we could possibly see how that goes. When did you know that this was a title you wanted to speedrun? When you started Ocarina of Time, when you started learning to practice it and whatnot, did you think that this could be something that you could and further your future for the streaming content that you provide?
Well, I wasn't really even thinking of furthering any kind of streaming career or anything like that when I started. It just kind of developed on its own, but I knew that I wanted to speedrun it the second I saw mostly Stone was the runner I watched the most.
Right.
Especially now that we've got some more fellow Australians on the boards.
Right, Trippy.
It's nice to see some representation. Yeah, we got Richard's gotten his top 3 for regular 80%, and we got some more Aussies in the top 25 now.
Right.
Including myself. So yeah, it's good to see the Aussie rep.
So a question that a lot of people usually ask when you see people mostly streaming the original Ocarina of Time was, do you think that the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time is inferior, or is there any preference between the two?
I mean, inferior isn't really that's just kind of a personal point, right? You're always gonna be drawn to the things you experienced as a child. Personally, I've never had a fondness for mobile consoles, like handhelds. But I did grow up with a Game Boy, and I do like those games. So it's just kind of um, a little on the biased side, but I would
Right.
definitely not call it inferior. It's different,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's its own game.
Right.
It's its own beast with its own way of running, and that
Right.
in itself can be kind of cool to watch in its own merit.
Right. So, if you were to choose a game that isn't Zelda, what category would you choose?
Probably Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's been some people recently I found like Luna Jump, from some other OT speedrunners. They kind of drew me onto them, and I've been really enjoying watching that. Maybe I might dabble in that at some point too. It
Okay.
seems mostly focused on movement optimization,
Right.
but I mean I
It's
guess that makes
very
sense in
it's
a
very
Mario game.
movement
Yeah,
based. Yes.
yeah. And I do own Odyssey as well on the Switch, so
Mm-hmm.
that's another candidate, I suppose.
Right. And I wanted to know, like, because all speedrunners usually have downtime. They always take time to, be with themselves. Who would be a favorite speedrunner of yours that you usually watch on your free time, or anything that you like to support?
Well, there's a bunch of us actually who have kind of gotten together for a little, kind of like a mini speedrun group. We like to race every now and then, and yeah, we regularly like just chill out and watch each other's streams. People like Andorando, Dronis, Melee Every Day, who
Juna. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, also known as Juno, I suppose. Mutant, Mutant, Weather Up There, Trippy Guy, YOLO, Zelda fan, a bunch of great guys, and of course, Richard Sages,
Okay.
my main Aussie boy.
Your main
Those are
Aussie
usually
boy.
the
Your
yeah.
main Aussie boy. Okay, so think of this in the future. You continue on with this career, you continue to maybe get more world records, hopefully. Do you
Yeah.
think
Who knows?
do you think speedrunning could be a potential career path for you if you were able to continue these accomplishments?
Uh, it's kind of hard to see, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one thing to try and get big in Twitch, but I feel like that's just kind of the thing that just kind of happens,
It's
where
wishful
life
thinking,
happens.
right?
Yeah, it's like it's one thing to like be optimistic,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's good, but there are also other things I want to focus on, aside from that. And if I get some success with Twitch, then that's awesome. But if I don't, then life still happens, and that's also cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's always the case when, you're trying to make your life more enjoyable, and you do the things that make you happy, and that's a
Yeah,
really admirable way of looking at it. Any
there's got to
other
be a balance, I feel,
Oh
too.
yeah.
Like
Oh, oh,
not
oh,
just
definitely.
for like for a clear mind, but also for your health too,
Right.
like your mental health. Like you shouldn't be streaming and running and thinking, oh, the pressure's on and you need to, like, that's
Right.
everything you're experiencing, everything you're trying to go forward with on your journey. There should be an element of fun in that, because if you're not having fun and you're trying to speedrun, something is misaligned, I feel.
Right. I understand completely on that retrospect. Well, um do you have any other things that you want to say? Maybe some inspirational quotes or anything you'd like to add in?
Um, Not that I can think of, but actually there was one something I remember saying back when I used to play a lot of Street Fighter, because I used to play that competitively. And a lot of the things I've been envisioning lately have kind of coincided with that, in terms of improvement and focus. And there was something an old coach of mine used to say, which was, you don't need to fix your mistakes, just acknowledge them.
Right.
And I thought that's just so poignant. Like,
It's corny, but it's very, very
yeah,
true. It's very, very
yeah,
true.
because
Um,
you like no one is perfect.
oh yeah.
There's always some room for improvement, but
Hmm.
anyone can do this. It just takes a certain amount of dedication, a certain amount of love for what you do, and you'll get there.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you very much, Habble, for this interview. I really appreciate it, and thank you for
Yeah,
some
thanks for
insight
having me.
on. Of course. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for giving us some insight on what your thoughts are and everything for the Master Quest 20%, which is officially 1943.
Yeah.
You have a
Oh,
wonderful day.
41
Oh,
now.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Not split correctly there. I would have lost too much time, and it wouldn't have word recorded. Bread obtained. Grain obtained. There you go, dude. There you go. We did it. Master Quest, any percent, world record. And you know what's interesting is it's not so optimized. Like, this run was kind of garbage. Look at that shit. I missed the West, dude. I lost so much time. I lost a lot of time at scrubs. This could have been easily, like, with those two splits, this could have easily been, like, 12, 15 seconds better. Easily. Getting the God Rock there was the best thing. It wouldn't have worked without it. Plus, Ganon was kind of garbage as well. I lost 6 seconds compared to my best at Ganon. I was really fucking close. And this is actually perfect. This is what I wanted. I wanted, on purpose, a non-optimized run, because it will help incentivize other people to do the category. And if I get some extra competition, then we can seriously work on optimizing this shit. And at that point, I'll be like, okay, let's go for sub 19. But we're not at that point yet. Whew. Keep in mind, this is without Instaclip. With some... yeah, the game's gonna crash here, don't worry about it. Some splits were bad, Instaclip wasn't a thing, and I had some time losses at Deku for sure. Like, 602 Deku is not amazing. But it's functional, and that's what we need. Good job, us!